Hey, Kelly O'Connor here. I was working on a couple things tonight, and I came across this old calculator that you see on your screen. I haven't used it in a little while, but I thought I would do a video for you guys because, as you see in the upper corner there, the 401k match, I get asked fairly often about the individual's match. Well, Kelly, what should I do about my match? It's free money, right? I mean, shouldn't I take free money? Even today, being in November when benefits are typically getting, you got to redo the benefits if you're an employee. My wife is a nurse, and she was inquiring about whether we should utilize the match that she's able to get, and now that she's been there even longer than before. So I deal with this in my own house, but I get this question a lot, and I thought I would demonstrate this for you on how to know what it takes to maximize your 401k. You see, maximizing a 401k is not how much you put in specifically, meaning that you max it out with the maximum allowed by the IRS. That's not maxing out. That's not maximizing your 401k. How you maximize it is by leveraging the match. And I'm going to show you what I mean. So let's look at this here just real quick. Let's pretend for a minute, and I'm not going to be able to look you in the eye all the darn time. I don't look you in the eye. I'm looking at my camera, but you know what I mean. I got to look down here too. So let's pretend for a minute that you're doing $17,000 a year into a 401k and you don't get a match. And you're going to get an investment return over time of 7%. That number's irrelevant whether it's 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, whatever. For this, we're just using a 7% calculation. That's fine. And I've broken this down, or this is broken down into 3 decades, right? The first 10 years, the second 10 years, and the third 10 years. Now, almost always, when you first start out, you're not making the amount of money that you are when you are in your final 10 years of work, right? Like I make more money now than I did when I was 30. I'm 46. And I know I'll be making more money in 10 years than I am today, or I'm extremely confident of it at least. So in this, what I'm going to show is that the tax bracket, our federal bracket, we'll just calculate a 28%, is the same in all of those 30 years and also when we withdraw the money. Now, what impact is this going to create to overall return? Well, as you can guess, it's going to create a net effect that's 7%. You see, we put 17 aside. We could have paid the 28%, but we didn't. We let it grow, and then we paid 28% when we used it later. So it's the same. It's an apples for apples kind of a thing here. But this isn't realistic. What would be realistic is to demonstrate that we're probably in a low bracket when we're starting out for those 10 years. Maybe let's just say we're right here in 28, and then we are really kicking butt now that we're as knowledgeable as we can be and experienced as we can, and maybe we've made it to some executive level, or we're an entrepreneur and we're just kicking butt. Now, here's the issue. I have never met one single person, not one time, not one person, have I ever met somebody who truly wants to decrease their lifestyle in retirement. You see, the idea of you're going to be in a lower bracket means you are going to, oh, I don't need as much money. Well, it says maybe, right? But I've never met anybody who wants to retire and drastically lower their income and their lifestyle. If anything, they want to increase it. They're going to travel more. They've got more time. So it doesn't happen. And for successful individuals, it doesn't happen. And that's who I work with. I don't work with somebody that builds up to a certain lifestyle and then wants to all of a sudden cut it in half to be in a lower bracket. They want to maintain that lifestyle. So what do you think is going to happen here if you are choosing to not pay 15 cents on every dollar at this time in order to let it grow at 7% and pay it at 35% later? What do you think the impact's going to be on your overall rate of return? Hopefully you guessed it's going to reduce it. It does. So, Kelly, how does the match work then? I get a $4,000 a year match, dollar for dollar, but I contribute 17 grand because I want to, you know, have as much money as I can in the future. So what does that do? What do you think is going to happen here? You now have leveraged $4,000 of your employer's money. What do you think is going to happen? We were at 6.04. Now we're at 7.13. So you see, what the match does is the match can help offset the years that you were actually in a low bracket and then later when you took it out at a higher bracket. So it almost equated to an equal return. It still was a little bit lower, a little bit higher here, and then it definitely helped leverage when we were equal, 35 and 35. So that begs the question though, if you only put in what is required to get the biggest match, what do you think is going to happen now? Remember this number, 7.13. So if we don't put in 17 grand, we only put in the required 4 in this example, dollar for dollar up to 4 grand. What do you think is going to happen now to this leveraging model? It's quite nice. You see, that is the impact of free money. The way you truly maximize free money is by putting the smallest amount of your dollar into that tool in order to get the biggest match. So if you could actually only contribute $1,000 to get the 4 grand, well, that is a fantastic leveraging model for you. Now, I find it interesting that the public sector, the government, often does what's called a non-contributory match, meaning if you're the employee and you're pretty big with them, they will contribute to your account regardless of whether you contribute or not, a non-contributory match. I have a client, an actual client of mine, who is a state attorney, and she gets 15.36% deposited every year for pay into an account, and she has to contribute not $1. How many of you would sign up for that? Heck, I would. Someone's going to give me 15% of my pay every year. I don't have to do anything. That is free money. But the moment they say, yeah, we'll do it, but you have to put your money in as well, and you can't touch it till you're 59.5, and you don't know how much is going to come back because the government hasn't taken their slice yet, well, that becomes a different model. And so how we leverage that mathematically, this is not opinion, this is math. How we leverage that mathematically is not by putting in the most the government will allow us, whether it's 17 or 18, whatever, it's irrelevant, but we don't maximize that by putting in the most we possibly can. We maximize it by putting in the smallest amount we can in order to get the biggest match. That's how you look at your 401k. And of course it begs the question, well, what do I do with the difference? If I can afford to put 17 grand aside and I'm only going to do 4 grand into the 401k, what do I do with the other 13 pre-tax dollars? Well, you just don't put them in your 401k. You use a different tool. Use a tool that you don't have to wait till you're 59.5 to touch. Use a tool, maybe pay the tax today. Use a tool that you've got the ability to access the money to still grow it, but you're maximizing your 401k by leveraging the match. You're being as efficient as possible in that arena. So that's how you max out your 401k. Now, remember what I believe. I believe the IRS tries really hard to take the fun out of being successful, and they do this by creating obstacles to get in our way. Because of this, I believe successful individuals deserve the opportunity to learn how the tax code permits them to get their assets positioned in such a way so when it's time to finally use those assets in retirement, they can be used in such a way that they are completely exempt from both federal and state income taxes, regardless of the income level and regardless of the state that they reside in. Now, how I do this is by demonstrating the tax code. What I do is make it possible for people. So when we're looking at 401ks, we have to understand in this arena how we maximize that free money, not how we shove as much money into that as possible. Because if you look at my other videos when I talk about the pie, if I'm holding the pie and it's your financial pie, it's everything you've done and everything you've created, and you're finally at a point to where you're slowing down working, you're going to start using that pie. That money is going to start paying you your retirement income. How much, if it was up to you, how much of that pie would you want to carve out to just give to the IRS? Just give them a slice. There you go. I love you. If it were up to you, how big would you make it? I'm extremely confident you said you wouldn't give them anything. Well, whenever you're shoving money into the 401k, you're handing the IRS the knife. Hey, IRS, how much of my pie do you want? So in order to efficiently navigate the 401k arena, in order to be in a position to actually get as least amount to them as possible, you don't put in as much money as you can. You put in the smallest amount to get the biggest match, not vice versa. All right, so there are two systems of taxation in our country, one for the informed and one for the uninformed. It is my duty, my obligation, and my responsibility to make sure I do everything I can to put you in the category of informed. I'm Kelly O'Connor. We'll talk again soon. I think I'm recording. All right. All right, it's Kelly O'Connor. All right, Kelly O'Connor. Hey, Kelly O'Connor here. Hey, Kelly O'Connor here. I was working on a couple